At 0317 Coordinated Universal Time, the world's most sensitive deep space array finally picked up a signal. Not a random burst of cosmic noise, but a deliberate, patterned transmission pulsing from a sector 12 light-years away. For hours, scientists scrambled to decode the message, hope blooming across Earth's continents. The signal was unlike anything humanity had seen. Complex, layered with frequencies that suggested intelligence and purpose. Dr. Amina Rahal sat alone in the quiet hum of the deep space listening post near Sydney. Her heart pounded as lines of alien script blinked across her screen. If this was proof that Earth was not alone, it was a moment to be treasured, a sign of unity, of cosmic kinship. Then, without warning, every screen in the facility flickered and went dark. The power cut was instantaneous. Outside, the sky above Sydney and then across the globe began to crackle with unnatural light. Within seconds, orbital defense stations began disappearing, destroyed by weapons that bypassed human radar like ghosts. The silence of space shattered as satellites exploded into fiery fragments, cascading downward like deadly rain. Governments went from awe to alarm in a heartbeat. Military commanders confirmed what nobody wanted to believe. Earth was under attack. The Thalketh arrived with cold precision. Their ships were sleek, smooth, and eerily silent, moving faster than anything human technology could track. The first strikes targeted communications hubs, power grids, and military installations, crippling Earth's ability to respond. In New York City, Mayor Elena Cortez watched from the Emergency Operations Center as the power flickered and died. Around her, the hum of radio chatter turned to frantic screams. Then came the first explosion, a towering inferno consuming the city's financial district. Smoke rose like a black shroud over the skyline. Admiral Rourke, the voice of the military liaison, crackled through the speaker, tense and urgent. Multiple cities are under simultaneous attack. Satellite defenses are down. We need orders. Elena's eyes burned with determination. Do whatever it takes to protect what's left. Civilian evacuations are priority. This is an act of war. As the world descended into chaos, the Thalketh broadcast a chilling message across all frequencies in every known language. Humanity is incompatible. Cleansing is mercy. The message was brief but ruthless, echoing in the minds of billions. For hours, Earth fought to survive. Fighter jets scrambled, missile silos fired blindly into space, and emergency sirens wailed endlessly. Yet the enemy remained untouchable, striking from the shadows of orbit and slipping away before retaliation. In a shattered suburb of Berlin, a young engineer named Leo Weber crouched in the rubble of his home, clutching the hand of his younger sister. Around them, fires burned unchecked. His world had gone from normal to nightmare in the blink of an eye. They came from nowhere, Leo whispered, voice trembling. Why us? His sister looked up at him with wide, terrified eyes. Will they come back? Leo swallowed, hard anger and fear mingling in his chest. They did, and when they do, we'll be ready. Across the Atlantic, aboard the TSV Valiant, Earth's flagship orbital defense platform, Admiral Helena Rourke stood resolute. The flickering holograms showed cities burning, satellites lost, and the enemy advancing. Make no mistake, she said, voice calm but steel hard. They attacked first. We will make sure it is their last mistake. She turned to her officers. Initiate emergency protocols. Alert every spacefaring vessel. Prepare for counterattack. Humanity doesn't go down without a fight. Back on Earth, as blackouts turned cities into ghost towns, news feeds flooded with desperate calls for calm and survival. But beneath the surface, something powerful was awakening. The raw, unyielding will of humanity. Somewhere in the vast deserts of the Australian outback, a solitary radio operator transmitted a single message into the void. We are still here. We will fight. And as the fires burned and the night grew darker, Earth's defenders began to move, bound by a truth older than time. When cornered, humanity does not surrender. It evolves. It fights. It survives. Because the attackers had made a grave mistake. They had awakened a force they could neither predict nor contain. The dawn after the first strike was a world unrecognizable. Earth was bruised and bleeding, cities lay in ruins, and the survivors moved through shattered streets like ghosts haunted by the smoke and ash of their former lives. But amidst the rubble, a fire burned brighter than any bomb ever could, the fire of resolve. At the heart of this awakening was a young engineer named Leo Weber. Once a specialist in civilian space elevators, now a reluctant soldier, Leo found himself thrust into a war he never wanted. He knelt beside his sister in a makeshift shelter beneath the ruins of Berlin, the echoes of distant sirens still ringing in his ears. His mind raced. How had humanity gone from greeting the stars with hope to fighting for its very survival in less than a day? The answer lay in unity. Governments that had spent decades squabbling over resources and borders now broadcast messages of solidarity and defiance. The United Nations dissolved into the Terran Accord, a coalition formed to marshal every ounce of humanity's strength into one unstoppable force. In the newly established command center beneath the Swiss Alps, Admiral Helena Rourke stood over a holographic map of Earth. Her sharp eyes scanned the images of destruction, burned cities, crippled infrastructure, millions displaced or dead. She felt every loss as if it were her own, but she refused to be broken. Status report, she demanded. A young officer, Lieutenant Commander Saito Jin, spoke briskly. Recovery efforts are underway. Civilian evacuations prioritized. Mars and the outer colonies are accelerating weapons production. AI units previously restricted are being deployed for battlefield command. Rourke nodded grimly. Good. Humanity's greatest strength is its adaptability. We've survived centuries of hardship, and this war will be no different. Elsewhere, Leo was recruited into a resistance cell, a group made up of civilians, former military, and scientists, determined to strike back. Among them was Dr. Amina Rahal, the deep space scientist who had first intercepted the alien signal. She was haunted by what she had seen, the brutality of the Thalketh strike, their merciless efficiency. Humanity is chaotic, she told, the group eyes blazing. Unpredictable. That's why they attacked first. They fear what they cannot control. Leo listened intently. So we fight like humans, not machines? Exactly, Amina said. Our greatest weapon isn't technology. It's our will to survive, to fight back no matter the odds. At the front lines in orbit, the Terran fleet was a fragile shield. Ships of every design, from battered human warships to hastily converted freighters, formed a chaotic but determined line against the Thalketh incursions. General Saito Jin moved among the crews, a calm presence amid panic. He saw the exhaustion in their eyes, but also the fierce determination. They fought not just for victory, but for home. One night aboard the TSV Valiant, Helena Rourke convened a secret council. The question hanging in the air was simple. How do you fight an enemy who seems invincible? Her answer was radical. We don't just fight, she said, voice low but fierce. We learn. We adapt. We become something they never expected. Humanity will become the weapon that shatters their assumptions. Amina Rahal, who had been invited to provide scientific counsel, leaned forward. We've begun developing new AI protocols, self-learning, evolving in real time. We're also enhancing human soldiers with cybernetic interfaces. The battlefield will be as much in the mind as in space. Leo volunteered for the first wave of neural interface trials, driven by the desire to do more than survive, to strike back. The world watched as the Thalketh bombed once more, this time targeting Earth's underground bunkers and refugee convoys. Millions fled into the mountains and deserts, carrying only what they could. But every attack forged humanity's resolve sharper. In one harrowing mission, Leo's team sabotaged a key communications relay in the ruins of what was once Paris. Under fire and surrounded, they managed to detonate the relay, cutting off a vital Thalketh command link. It was a small victory, but a signal, a message that Earth was no longer a victim. The cost was high. Leo lost friends, Families were torn apart, but in every loss was a spark. "We are not alone," Leo whispered into the darkness after the mission. "We are many. We are the storm they never saw coming." Back in orbit, Admiral Rourke received word of the sabotage. A faint smile crossed her lips. "They attacked first," she said softly. "And now we make sure it's their last mistake." As Earth limped through its darkest hours, its people were already preparing for the counterstrike that would echo across the stars. Because humanity had learned one brutal truth. The first blow was never the last. And when provoked, humans became something far more dangerous than any alien threat had ever imagined. The void of space had always been humanity's final frontier, vast, mysterious, and unforgiving. Now it was a battlefield. Humanity's response to the savage attack was swift but cautious. The Terran Accord launched a fleet of stealth probes, small and fast ships cloaked in shadows and silence, sent on dangerous missions deep into Thalketh territory. These were not just scouts. They were hunters, tasked with uncovering the secrets of the invaders and finding any weakness that could turn the tide of war. Aboard the lead vessel, the TSV Shadow, Captain Mira Langley stared into the blackness, her jaw tight with resolve. The probe's sensors detected no immediate threats, but the silence was a warning in itself. The Thalketh preferred striking unseen, their technology perfected over centuries of unchecked conquest. "We are entering the Keshir system," Mira announced over comms. "Sensor sweep. Look for anything unusual." The crew held their breath. The Keshir system was one of the Thalketh's outer colonies, known as a hub for resource extraction and slave labor. Officially, it was a vital cog in the Dominion's war machine. Unofficially, it was a cage. As Shadow slipped past patrol routes, the crew's instruments lit up with unexpected readings, signs of artificial constructs, communication jammers, and movement patterns unlike any they'd seen. Then came the first contact. A small vessel attempting to intercept the Shadow. The Thalketh pilot was skilled but underestimated the humans' tactics. With expert maneuvers and electronic countermeasures, Shadow slipped away, barely dodging a barrage of plasma bolts. "Not bad for a probe," Mira muttered, adrenaline surging. "They're scared." But the real revelation came when the team decrypted intercepted transmissions from the colony. The data painted a dark picture. Millions enslaved across dozens of worlds, subjugated species living under brutal Thalketh rule. Entire civilizations had been wiped out or folded into the Dominion's caste system, a rigid hierarchy based on genetic purity. "This isn't just a war of survival," said Lieutenant Keon Reyes, the ship's xenologist. "It's genocide." Suddenly a shadow appeared on their comm feed, a voice speaking in broken Galactic standard, distorted and cautious. "I am Varkesh," the alien said, "once a high executor of the Dominion. I have seen the truth your people fight for." "Yurdi-san," crew exchanged stunned glances. This was the first direct contact with a Thalketh dissident. Varkesh's message was chilling and hopeful at once. "The Dominion fears you because you are chaos incarnate, unpredictable, irrational, free. We have not known such resistance. They have not prepared for it." His words sent a ripple through the Shadow's crew. They had assumed the enemy was perfect, invincible. Now they knew better. But there was more. "You seek weakness?" Varkesh continued. "Look for where their logic fails, the place where discipline breaks. You will find it in their command chains. They are untested in true war. They are not ready for what you bring." The revelation was a spark of hope, and a deadly warning. As Shadow retreated from Keshir, Varkesh's words echoed in Captain Langley's mind. The Thalketh's strength was their order, their ruthless efficiency, but their rigidity was a weakness humans could exploit. On Earth, Admiral Helena Rourke listened intently as intercepted transmissions and Varkesh's message were relayed to her. "An empire built on control is brittle," she said, eyes blazing with determination. "Their greatest weapon is their structure. Our greatest weapon will be to break it." Meanwhile, in the underground labs of Mars's shipyards, scientists raced to develop new weapons and strategies based on the data. AI systems designed for real-time adaptive tactics were integrated with human intuition. Cybernetically enhanced soldiers trained relentlessly. Back on Shadow, the crew prepared to report home when sensors picked up an unexpected signal, a distress beacon buried deep within an asteroid belt near Keshir. It was weak, fragmented, but unmistakably a call for help. Could be a trap, Mira warned, or it could be a chance to strike a blow for those enslaved. The decision was made. Shadow would investigate. As they navigated the treacherous asteroid field, they discovered a hidden station, a prison holding enslaved species, many barely alive, guarded by Thalketh patrols. A daring rescue operation unfolded, mixing stealth with sudden bursts of violence. The crew freed dozens, including a Quran warrior who pledged allegiance to humanity's cause. His fierce loyalty was a reminder. Earth's fight was now a beacon for the oppressed. The TSV Shadow slipped away, battered but victorious, carrying not just survivors but a message back to Earth. The war was no longer just about survival. It was about liberation. And as the fleet prepared to strike deeper into the Dominion's heart, the Terran Accord knew one truth. The enemy had never faced anything like humanity's unpredictable fury. The stars over Keshir burned with an unnatural light. Fires sparked by explosions ignited in orbit and on the planet's surface. The quiet rebellion humanity had ignited was becoming a blazing inferno. Lieutenant Mira Langley sat at the command console of the TSV Vengeance, her fingers flying across controls as the ship weaved through the orbital defenses. This wasn't just another raid. This was a message. Humanity wasn't just surviving. They were fighting back with fury. Below them, the colony world of Keshir was a sprawling network of mining facilities and slave camps. Thousands of lives were shackled under the cold regime of the Thalketh Dominion. Mira's mission: sever the Dominion's grip and ignite the sparks of freedom. Target the main communications hub. Admiral Rourke's voice came steady through the comms. We cut their ability to coordinate. Strike hard, strike fast. The Vengeance fired plasma torpedoes that tore through shield generators, sending cascading blackouts through the city below. Fires erupted in industrial complexes, and the first signs of revolt flickered to life in the streets. On the ground, among the enslaved, chaos turned to hope. Kyle, a Koran warrior freed by the TSV Shadow's earlier mission, moved silently through the alleys, rallying slaves with whispered commands. Tonight, he hissed, we fight as one. Kale was fierce, scarred from years of forced servitude, but now his eyes burned with the promise of freedom. Beside him, Amira, a former slave turned resistance fighter, loaded makeshift weapons with trembling hands. We've waited too long, she said, voice tight with determination. If we don't act now, we die here forever. Suddenly, blaring alarms pierced the night as the Dominion forces scrambled to respond. Thalketh soldiers poured into the streets, but the rebels fought with desperate courage. Explosions rocked. The city as mining equipment was sabotaged, turning tools of oppression into weapons of defiance. Human orbital strikes illuminated the sky like lightning, striking with deadly precision. Back aboard the Vengeance, Mira watched the battlefield unfold through sensors. They're holding longer than expected, she muttered. But the pressure is breaking their lines. The battle wasn't without cost. The Vengeance shuddered under return fire, plasma blasts scorched the hull, and casualties mounted on both sides. Amira and Kale's rebel group found themselves cornered in a collapsed tunnel, surrounded by enemy troops. The air was thick with smoke and fear, but surrender was never an option. Kale drew his blade, eyes blazing. For freedom. With a roar, they charged, breaking through the enemy lines in a desperate push toward safety. The human orbital fleet responded, dispatching reinforcements to cover their retreat. The fire spread. The city's dark heart cracked open by rebellion and war. When the smoke cleared, the communications hub was destroyed, and several slave districts were liberated. But the Dominion's grip remained strong in other regions. Yet, the seed of insurrection had been planted. Back on the TSV Vengeance, Mira reviewed the mission report. The raid was a tactical success, but a strategic spark. Across the Dominion's holdings, whispers of revolt began to spread. Hope ignited in the darkness. Admiral Rourke's voice came through again, steady and resolute. They believed us weak, fractured. They were wrong. Humanity fights not because we are perfect, but because we are relentless. As the fleet prepared to jump back to Earth for repairs and reinforcements, a new message arrived, encrypted and urgent. It was from the High Executor of Keshir, the first prisoner of war taken alive during the raid. His message was a mix of defiance and desperation. You think this rebellion will end your war? You are naive. The Dominion's reach is endless. We will break you. Mira read the message aloud, then looked to her crew. Let them come. We're just getting started. In the freed districts, Kale and Amira stood before a crowd of survivors and rebels. The night air was heavy with smoke and hope. We have tasted freedom, Kyle declared, voice rising, and we will take it wherever the Dominion holds chains. Amira raised her fist, her voice steady. Tonight we burn their lies. Tomorrow, we build our future. The firestorms on Keshir were more than destruction. They were the birth of revolution, and humanity, unpredictable and unyielding, was the spark the galaxy needed. Victory was a fragile thing. For every battlefield triumph there lurked an unseen enemy, one that wore the face of a friend. Back on Earth, the Terran Accord was tightening its grip, coordinating strikes and rescue missions across the Dominion's territories. But beneath the surface of unity, suspicion festered like a poison. Whispers of betrayal crept through command centers, corridors, and encrypted channels. Admiral Helena Rourke sat behind the reinforced glass of the war room, studying intelligence reports that didn't add up. Secure comms had been compromised. Multiple times, supply convoys ambushed despite heavy escort. Entire units vanished without trace. Someone's feeding them our plans, she muttered, voice tight with frustration. And they're good at it. Her second-in-command, Captain Mira Langley, frowned. It could be a mole or an AI breach. Doesn't matter how, Rourke said. We can't fight a war with ghosts in our ranks. The hunt for the traitor began in earnest. Security protocols tightened, trust eroded. Paranoia seeped into the hearts of even the most loyal. Meanwhile, deep within the command center, a figure watched the chaos unfold with cold calculation. Commander Arlen Vox was a man of quiet influence, respected for his tactical genius but feared for his icy demeanor. Unknown to many, he carried secrets darker than any battlefield. Vox's motives were complex, torn between loyalty to Earth and a shadowy agenda that intertwined with alien collaborators. He believed that humanity's only hope was to harness the Dominion's power from within, even if it meant betrayal. As tensions mounted, Leo Weber found himself caught in the web. Newly assigned to cyber intelligence, he began uncovering strange data packets hidden within routine communications, signs of encrypted messages from within their own ranks. With the help of Dr. Amina Rahal, Leo traced the signals to a restricted server deep inside the Accord's network. The source was chilling. The communication originated from Vox's own terminal. Confronted, Vox remained calm. You misunderstand, he said, voice smooth as ice. I do what is necessary for humanity's survival. Sometimes sacrifices must be made. Rourke, furious and betrayed, ordered Vox's arrest. But he vanished before the security teams arrived, leaving behind only a cryptic message. The war is larger than you see. Trust no one. The betrayal shook the Accord to its core. Factions within the coalition began to fracture, old rivalries resurfacing under the strain of suspicion. Morale wavered, and the enemy sensed the weakness. True to Vox's warning, the Thalketh launched a devastating counteroffensive, targeting Earth's orbital shipyards and supply lines. Swift and brutal, their strikes caught the Terran fleet off guard, destroying key vessels and forcing a painful retreat. General Saito Jin, commanding the fleet, felt the weight of the failure. We're bleeding ships faster than we can build them. If this continues, Earth's defenses will collapse. In the underground resistance networks, Kale and Amira received word of the turmoil. The revolt on Keshir was at risk, their newfound freedom precarious. We need unity now more than ever, Amira urged during a tense meeting. If we fracture, the Dominion will crush us all. Kale nodded grimly. Betrayal is the deadliest weapon of all. Meanwhile, Leo worked feverishly to decrypt Vox's hidden files, uncovering a map of secret Dominion alliances and a covert plan to sabotage Earth's defenses from within. But the deeper he dug, the more dangerous his mission became. Someone was watching. One night, as Leo returned to his quarters, shadows moved silently. He barely dodged an ambush, escaping with only a graze to his arm. The message was clear: stop digging or die. Helpless but determined, Leo sent his findings to Admiral Rourke through a secure channel. We're under attack from inside and out, he warned. We have to root out the traitors before it's too late. Rourke's response was immediate. Prepare for a purge. Every suspicious element will be investigated. No one is above suspicion. As trust shattered and alliances strained, the battle for Earth was no longer just fought in the stars. It was a war within humanity's own heart. In the darkest corners of the command center, a new figure emerged from the shadows, a former ally turned informant, offering secrets that could turn the tide. But every secret came with a price. And as the Thalketh closed in, the greatest threat was no longer their advanced weaponry or ruthless tactics. It was the betrayal lurking among those sworn to protect. The web of deceit tightened around the Terran Accord like a noose. Every whispered suspicion and furtive glance threatened to unravel the fragile unity humanity had forged. Trust was scarce, and the line between ally and enemy blurred. Admiral Helena Rourke stood alone in her command chamber, staring at the holomap of Earth's defenses. The glowing points marked where sabotage had struck, supply depots burned, critical systems offline, and ships vanished from tracking without explanation. She clenched her fists. How many more betrayals can we survive? Behind, her Lieutenant Mira Langley approached quietly. We have a lead. The informant Vox warned us about has contacted us. Rourke's eyes narrowed. Bring them in. In a dimly lit room below the command center, a figure waited. Seraphine Kale, a former Dominion operative turned double agent, stepped forward. Her face was pale, eyes sharp with urgency. I have information, Seraphine said. Vox's network runs deeper than you know. There are cells embedded across the colonies, ready to strike when the Dominion commands. Rourke studied her carefully. Why should we trust you? Because I want the Dominion to fall as much as you do, Seraphine replied. But we don't have time for doubt. They're planning a major attack, one that could cripple Earth's orbital defenses permanently. Meanwhile, Leo Weber and Dr. Amina Rahal worked feverishly to decode intercepted Dominion transmissions. The message they uncovered was chilling. A massive fleet was mobilizing near the edge of human space, preparing for a full-scale invasion. This isn't a raid, Amina said grimly. It's an invasion force. General Saito Jin gathered the fleet commanders for an emergency briefing. We must hold the line at all costs, he said. If the fleet falls, Earth is defenseless. At the same time, chaos spread on the ground. The Keshir rebellion, inspired by human strikes, faced brutal retaliation. Kale and Amira coordinated guerrilla efforts, but supplies ran low and hope was stretched thin. We need more support, Amira insisted. If we fail here, the Dominion will crush every uprising. Kale nodded. And the Terran fleet must hold them back in space. Back on Earth, tensions within the Terran Accord reached a boiling point. Vox's shadow lingered, with arrests and purges disrupting operations. Rumors of a coup circulated, threatening to fracture the coalition. Admiral Rourke made a bold decision. She called for a temporary ceasefire among the Accord's factions to unify command and focus on the coming storm. This is humanity's breaking point, she declared in a broadcast. We stand together or fall apart. The future of Earth depends on us all. The message reverberated across colonies and battlefronts, a rallying cry amid the encroaching darkness. As the fleet readied for the invasion, Leo was sent on a dangerous mission. He and a small team would infiltrate a Dominion communications hub to sabotage the fleet's coordination. The operation was a gamble, but the payoff could save millions. Under cover of darkness, they slipped, through enemy lines, navigating corridors swarming with guards and automated sentries. Every step was perilous. Every breath could be their last. Inside the hub, Leo's hands trembled as he uploaded the virus Amina had designed. The countdown began. Suddenly, alarms blared. They had been discovered. Gunfire erupted. The team fought desperately, buying Leo precious seconds. Almost there. Leo shouted. With a final keystroke, the virus unleashed, corrupting the Dominion's fleet communication channels. The response was immediate chaos. Ships scrambled blindly, unable to coordinate attacks or retreats. The Terran fleet seized the advantage, launching a fierce counterattack. In orbit, Admiral Rourke watched the battle unfold. The cost was high. Ships exploded in bursts of fire and metal, but the tide was turning. On the ground, the rebels sensed the shift. Amira's voice crackled over the comms. "Hold the line, help is coming." Kale led a final assault on a key Dominion stronghold, their fighting fueled by hope and desperation. As the battle raged, a message arrived from Seraphine Kale. Another network of traitors had been exposed and the Accord's command was purged of its last saboteurs. But the cost was steep. Lives lost, trust shattered, and Earth's defenses barely holding. Admiral Rourke knew the war was far from over. "This is just the beginning," she said quietly. "But today, we proved that even at our breaking point, humanity fights." And, as the stars outside burned with the fire of war, humanity's spirit burned brighter, unyielding, unpredictable, and unbroken. The cold silence of space shattered under the roar of war. The Terran fleet, battered but unbroken, faced the full might of the Dominion's invasion force just beyond the solar system's outer rim. It was the battle that would decide the fate of Earth, and perhaps all humanity. Admiral Helena Rourke stood on the bridge of the flagship TSV Resolute, her eyes fixed on the holographic display. Hundreds of enemy vessels glimmered against the void, their weapon systems primed for annihilation. "We hold this line no matter the cost," she commanded. "Every ship, every life, is the last wall between freedom and extinction." The fleet responded with a unified surge, plasma cannons firing, missile volleys streaking into the enemy ranks. Explosions blossomed like deadly fireworks as ships were torn apart. Lieutenant Mira Langley coordinated fighter squadrons, their nimble interceptors darting through enemy formations, targeting command ships and disrupting supply lines. Her voice remained steady over comms despite the chaos. "Keep formation. Protect the capital ships. We cannot afford to lose the Resolute." On the ground, Kale and Amira fought with grim determination. The Keshir rebellion had grown into a full-scale uprising, but Dominion reinforcements were pouring in. Yet the Daiyu rebels faced overwhelming firepower and merciless retaliation. "Hold the city," Amira shouted to the fighters rallying around her. "We fight for every breath of freedom." Kyle led a squadron through the ruins, striking at supply convoys and command posts. Every victory was hard won, every loss deeply felt. Back aboard the Resolute, an emergency alert shattered the tense calm. A massive Dominion dreadnought broke through the fleet's front line, charging toward the flagship with weapons blazing. "Shields to maximum! All hands to battle stations!" Rourke ordered, her heart pounding. The dreadnought's guns tore into the Resolute's hull, metal screaming under the assault. The flagship rocked violently, systems failing in rapid succession. Mira's squadron engaged the dreadnought's fighter escorts, buying precious seconds. The air was thick with the acrid scent of burning electronics and the cries of wounded sailors. In the flagship's war room, Leo Weber worked furiously with engineers to stabilize the ship's systems. His arm still ached from the previous skirmish, but there was no time for pain. "We can't hold much longer," he said grimly. "If that dreadnought breaches the bridge, we're done." Suddenly, the ship's comms crackled to life. It was Seraphine Kale transmitting from the surface of Keshir. "We've captured a Dominion weapons cache," she reported. There's an experimental weapon, something that could turn the tide, but it's heavily guarded. Rourke's eyes narrowed. Get me the coordinates. Understood. But you'll need a strike team, stealth, precision, and speed. Mira stepped forward without hesitation. I'll lead the team. The plan was desperate but necessary. While the fleet fought for survival in space, the strike team would infiltrate the Dominion's arsenal and seize the weapon. Under cover of darkness, Mira, Leo, and a small unit descended to the planet's surface, aboard a stealth shuttle. The ruins of Keshir stretched out beneath them, a landscape scorched by war. Navigating through enemy patrols and automated defenses, the team reached the cache, a massive underground bunker pulsating with energy. Inside, they found the weapon, a gravity disruptor capable of crippling ships at a molecular level. Its power was immense but unstable. We don't have long, Leo warned, setting charges to disable the facility after they left. Just as they secured the weapon, alarms blared. The Dominion forces were alerted. A desperate firefight erupted in the narrow corridors. Mira's squad fought with skill and determination, but they were outnumbered. Amira and Kale appeared at the last moment, leading a rebel assault to break the blockade. Together, the combined forces fought their way back to the extraction point, the gravity disruptor their prize. As they lifted off, Mira looked down at the burning city below. This is for every soul they enslaved, she said quietly. Back in orbit, the Resolute was barely holding. The gravity disruptor activated just in time, sending a pulse that crippled the dreadnought and several escort ships. The Dominion fleet faltered, confusion spreading like wildfire. Admiral Rourke seized the moment. Full attack! Push them back! The Kiso fleet surged forward, exploiting the chaos. One by one, enemy ships fell or fled. The battle was won, but the cost was staggering. Ships drifted like wrecks in the void. Thousands of lives were lost. In the aftermath, Mira stood beside Rourke on the flagship's bridge. We did it, Mira said, voice heavy with exhaustion. For now, Rourke replied. The Dominion will regroup, and so will we. Kale and Amira's rebellion on Keshir was far from over, but the spark of hope had become a wildfire. Humanity had survived the last stand, not just by firepower, but by unyielding spirit, and somewhere in the darkness of space, new battles awaited. The dust of battle settled across the solar system, but the scars it left would endure for generations. The Dominion's forces had been pushed back, their invasion repelled, but the war had changed everything. Admiral Helena Rourke stood before a packed assembly in the newly rebuilt Earth Council chambers. Her voice was steady, carrying the weight of hard-earned wisdom. They attacked us first, believing Earth was vulnerable, fractured and weak. They thought their reign over the stars was unchallenged. But humanity answered with something they could never understand: resilience, unity, and relentless spirit. She paused, letting the words settle. Today we remember those who gave everything, those who fought and fell so that freedom might live. But we also look forward, toward a future forged in fire and hope. Across the colonies, Keshir stood transformed. The rebellion had blossomed into a movement, liberating world after world from the Dominion's iron grasp. Kale and Amira, once slaves, now leaders, stood among their people, guiding the reconstruction. The ruins of oppression were now foundations of freedom. We've tasted liberty, Amira told the gathered crowd, and we will not let it slip away. Kyle nodded. The Dominion thought this would be their last conquest. They were wrong. Humanity's fight is just beginning. Back on Earth, life was fragile but reborn. The Terran Accord was reorganizing, stronger, wiser, and more united. Trust, once broken, was slowly mended by shared purpose. Leo Weber and Dr. Amina Rahal worked on rebuilding communications and defenses, ensuring the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. Their knowledge was the seed for innovation, both in technology and in diplomacy. Peace is fragile, Amina said quietly, but it is worth fighting for every day. The shadows of betrayal lingered still. Commander Arlen Vox had vanished, his fate unknown. But humanity's vigilance had sharpened. They knew the true battle was as much within as it was across the stars. Admiral Rourke often reflected on the war's lessons. The enemy had underestimated humanity's unpredictability, our ability to rise from ashes, to defy odds, to fight fiercely for what mattered. "We survived because we are more than soldiers and machines," she said once. "We, our stories, memories, and dreams. We are the sum of every choice we make." In the quiet moments, Mira Langley gazed at the stars from the TSV Resolute. The war had shaped her into a leader forged in adversity. The faces of comrades lost and futures saved weighed on her heart, yet hope burned brighter than grief. "Earth will never be the same," she whispered, "but it will be stronger. Because we are stronger." Far beyond, the Dominion's shattered fleets retreated into the dark, their empire fractured, their arrogance broken. But in the vastness of space, new threats lurked, new alliances formed. Humanity's journey was far from over, and as the last echoes of war faded, a new chapter began, one written not in fear, but in the enduring light of human spirit. They had made sure the attack on Earth was their last mistake, because humanity would never be conquered.